Um, I'm back. Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me now? Hello? Yay! And I wasn't dancing, Adi. I wasn't listening to anything. I was singing. Hanukkah, Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll load and Sahara. Great, we're on track. So we're looking at Miketz. Thank you, Adi. So we're looking at Miketz at the end of Genesis, and Joseph is about to get an eye-opening awakening because here his brothers are going to show up, and it's got the potential to ruin his day as well as their day. But we're going to start with the very beginning, and we're going to start with the dreams. Pharaoh is having dreams, and let's see, where are we? Potiphar. Okay. Get the right beginning here. The brothers first, Joseph. One of the things that we can take out of this is the fact that human friends can be found when a man is successful, but they always disappear when times get rough. But that's not the case with God, with Hashem, because even when times are rough, God is there. He may feel, that he's further out than close, but God is someone beyond who never ever defeats us. And he is always there for us when we need him, even if we don't think we need him. Okay, I had a dream, I had a vision. Yep. So here we are. We've got Joseph. He's doing his thing, and Pharaoh has a dream to begin with. Pharaoh dreamed he was standing by the Nile, and out of the Nile came up 7 cows, handsome and sturdy, to graze in the reed grass. Presently 7 other cows came up behind them. They were ugly and gaunt, and they stood behind the fat cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, gaunt cows ate up the fat ones. And Pharaoh woke up. Then he fell back asleep, and he had a second. Correct, Shlomo. We are to trust Hashem. Oh, that's right. Let me start the broadcasting. Okay, we're going to start recording. So let's recap that quickly. That Pharaoh had a dream. 7 fat cows that came up out of the Nile grazing on the reeds, followed by 7 gaunt cows who came up out of the Nile, stood by the reeds, and ate up the good cows. Like Lanny says, they're IRS cows because they're gaunt, they're always hungry, and they seem to eat up all the good in our lives. And then Pharaoh had a second dream. This time he saw 7 grains of 7 ears of grain, and it was solid and healthy. It grew all on a single stalk. We might think it's corn because we're talking 7 ears of grain, but they didn't have corn in the Middle East at that time. Corn came from the Americas, specifically the Mayas and the Incas down Mexico direction. Then we got 7 more ears of grain that sprouted up, only like the cows, these ones were thin, and they were scorched by the east wind. So they're gaunt and hungry, and the thin ears just swallow up the 7 solid and full ones. Well, let's see what it says. 7 ears of grain. We're looking at verse 5, which is Hey, Vayishan V'yahalom Shinit Hine Shevalim Olot V'kana Echad Briot V'tuvot. It doesn't say. It just says 7 years of grain. So we're not told specifically. Lanny, amazing. It could have been wheat, millet, barley. Those were all grains that were popular in the Middle East at that time. They grew everywhere quite commonly, so it could have been any one of those. But the reality is, no matter what kind of grain it was, John Barleycorn must die. Yeah, well, we made him into whiskey. Anyway, Pharaoh was so agitated, he started telling all his friends, and he told everybody, all the wise men, all the magicians, everybody he knew, he was telling about these dreams. But nobody had I don't know if they had hops and malt. Well, yeah, because the Egyptians were brewing beer. So, yeah, it could have been barley or hops, something with like ears of grain on it. I've seen hops grow, it could be that, but they weren't all growing on a single stalk. So maybe barley. Okay, anyway, nobody was able to interpret the dream. So Pharaoh got angry with his servants and then placed them in custody in the house of the chief steward with the chief baker. And that we had dreams that same night, and there was a Hebrew youth that was imprisoned with us, and when we told him our dreams, this youth was able to interpret them for us. So it came to pass. And then Pharaoh was like, okay, yeah, all right. And he's thinking about it, and finally he calls for Joseph. And Joseph had his hair cut. He changed his clothes. So he probably had to take a bath as well, because those are ways that you get ready to greet somebody important. And we know that part of the process of getting ready to receive the 10 Commandments is the fact that the people got their hair cut, they washed their clothes, they took a bath out there in the desert, they got cleaned up so they would be presentable to a higher authority like a king to be seen. And then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and no one can interpret it, but I hear you can. Will you tell me its meaning? And Joseph answered, not I. God will see to your welfare. And Pharaoh said, in my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile, and he saw the fat cows, followed by the 7 skinny cows who ate up the 7 fat cows. And then he said that in the second dream he saw the seven, the grain that sprouted, the 7 ears of grain full and healthy on a single stalk, and then the skinny ears of grain also, and the skinny ears that ate up the fat ones. And I have told my magicians, and nobody has an explanation for me. So Pharaoh's and Joseph said Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. Now, how do you see that Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same? One's about cows and one's about grain, so how could they be one and the same dream? Any ideas? Any suggestions as to how that could be? Let's hear some thoughts. What do we got to say? Food. Okay. They're both about food. Same number, same theme. They're both about consumption. Okay. We see Adi likes to think with his stomach. Shlomo says they symbolize the same things. Yes. So both of them contain the same number, which is the number 7, which is significant because lots of things in the Torah happen in groups of 7s. And so 7 is a very symbolic number. We have a holiday every 7th day of the week with Shabbat. We have the change of the year in the 7th month of the calendar. We have years that are numbered in groups of 7s till we get to the Jubilee year. So 7 is an important number. And the dreams have the same theme, like Lanny says. They are both about subsumption because the skinnies, the starving, scrawny stalks and cows, are gobbling up the fat and happy cows and the fat and happy grain to do that. And so Joseph's interpretation is that the 7 fat cows and the 7 ears of grain symbolize 7 years of awesome harvest. But the skinny ones that come after symbolize that there will be 7 years of famine after the good years. And all the abundance of Egypt will be forgotten, and the land will be ravished by famine, and it will be very severe. And because Pharaoh had the same dream twice, it seems that the matter has been determined by God, and that God will carry it out. So, Pharaoh thinks it's over, and he decides to go ahead and prepare. So, he follows Joseph's instructions that says, appoint overseers over the land, organize Egypt in the 7 years of plenty so that you get lots of food, store it up in silos, dry it out. They didn't have canning jars, they didn't have freezers to preserve their food, so they were preserving it to last a long time without. So while they're eating, they have to have enough basically for 14 years because they've got to eat while they're stockpiling food during the first 7 years, and then they're going to be famine in the second group of 7, and they have to have enough food to last through those, plus the 8th year until the harvest comes back up. Shlomo says that he had the same dream 5 times on the same night, and they meant the same thing. So tell us, Shlomo, what did you do about this? What did you do? We know that Pharaoh stockpiled the grain, fattened up the cattle, dried out the fruit, dried vegetables, dried lentils, because they ate a lot of chickpeas, lentils, and dried beans, so they would have grown those and dried them. And dried beans, as we know, can last a long time. Sarah says that Shlomo dreamt that Egypt was having a famine. Well, they are at war. They are a struggling economy right now. That is very possible that I'm sure there's a lot of hungry people over there. But we're talking maybe roughly, 5,000, 4,000 years ago, something like that. Shlomo said he was a bit scared at first as it meant that I would be going through bad times, but Hashem would be with me. Okay, so you had you're saying that God was telling you you're going to have these good times, and then they would be followed by bad times, not necessarily famine, but troubles and difficulty. So were you like Pharaoh, able to take steps to make it through the hard times? We see that Pharaoh takes times. He preps. He's the original end-of-the-world prepper here. He's prepped food to last for 7 years for an entire nation. He's like the ultimate prepper, as they call them. The ultimate survivalist. So you followed through as a similar survivalist. Yes, okay. Well, that's good. Is there anything from that time that you want to share for us? Share with us? Yes, Lanny, it is a green bird. Shlomo's actually Troy, cleverly disguised. Ah, going incognito. Okay, so is there anything that Shlomo Troy would like to share about how he prepped for those challenging times? Okay. That's one good point. Keep your eye on God no matter what happens. There's a lesson for us right there, because we see Pharaoh being the ultimate survivalist prepper, and he's stockpiling his grain. They grew onions, they grew leeks, they grew garlic. Those are all foods that you can dry out really well. They grew grapes, and we all know that dried grapes become raisins. They would have had honey, and honey lasts a long time. They had their dried peas and beans and lentils. God helps them who help themselves. Shlomo read the Torah, learned about Judaism. Okay. We don't see Pharaoh stockpiling any water, though. And Egypt is a land that doesn't get, it's not known for getting lots of rain and lots of water, which is why Egypt is settled mostly along the rivers, along the Nile, along the Mediterranean, because they don't have a lot of it. Okay, Lanny says, with all that fiber, they'd spend the third 7 years in the bathroom. Yeah, maybe. But, it's hard to tell. And Shlomo said he was led to Judaism, just waiting to convert. Well, welcome to the tribe, Shlomo. So we're glad you're here with us. So if we're talking about survival, and we're talking about, Pharaoh being the ultimate survivalist and prepper, how can we apply that to our lives? What are the types of things that we can prepare for? God can send us hints. God can send us dreams and visions. He sent dreams to Pharaoh. He sent dreams to Shlomo. What about anybody else? Do we have any other preppers here? What kind of things would you be prepping for? What would you be stockpiling for your family? Okay. You keep lentils and barley in the cupboard. How many months supply you got in there, Sarah? 7 years worth? Prepping for retirement. Retirement's never going to happen for me, so I'm just going to keep on going. I'm not prepping for that. What about disasters? Anybody disaster preppers? Not hardly 7 years worth. Okay. What kind of things would you save for 7 years if you were going to prep for that long? To a degree. Okay. I don't hear anything from Adi. Not hearing anything from Shlomo. Arms, medical supplies, and MREs. Oh, those are excellent choices, Alex. I have a son who collects MREs. He gets them when he's out out in the field and he brings them home because he doesn't eat most of them. Beer and smokes, okay. Candles. What are you going to do when you run out of beer and when you run out of smokes and candles? Shlomo's going to keep Twinkies. Yes, unexpected education. Don't forget education. Prepping to handle unexpected. I was told by a prepper website the one thing that I should really stockpile. You guys are going to love this. I was told to stockpile whiskey because you can always trade whiskey for something else. So I figured maybe I'll buy it in pint bottles. That way I don't have to trade the big bottle. I could just trade smaller ones to get what I want. And maybe I can get by with a smaller bottle in trade than I can with a bigger bottle. And let me send you a link really quick here. The link that I'm sending you is to help you create food storage. Yeah, good for antiseptic. If you run out of whiskey, well, easier to distill it yourself. Yeah. Well, I don't have the equipment to distill my own whiskey, nor do I have a good recipe. Stockpile sugar. Oh, Sarah, you would be surprised at the room you could find. You got room under your couch. You put things on shallow half boxes and slide them under the couch. You got room under the bed. You put them in shallow boxes and slide them under the bed. Put shelves in odd places. You got dressers that are up off your floor. We have dressers from the early 1900s, and they're all a foot off the floor with these cute little wooden legs. We slide stuff under the dressers all the time. Stack up plastic bins. Bury it. Adi, we both know that you and I do not have a yard. I live on an island and have a sandbox, and you live on a boat. But maybe somebody else has a yard, though if Sarah's living in a small apartment, she might not have. But this site talks about how we can do food storage in our world today, because we're not going to, in the ceiling tiles at work, there you go, make your boxes long enough, like those wrapping paper bins. You get those long plastic bins that'll just kind of fit over those. So yeah, stockpile sugar, yeah. I have dried beans, rice. Wise freeze dried meals, 56 meals in all. Well, there you go. Yes, that was also listed on the prepper site. Do we see Farrell telling the neighborhood about the stockpiling? No, he's not mentioning this to his neighbors in other nations. And Egypt was a big trading community because he didn't want the neighborhood to come down and steal his food storage. So if you have food storage, don't tell your neighbors. And if they ask for something, bring them out like one can of something so they don't know how much you really have stockpiled. Shlomo makes a good point. We had a bad tornado a week or so ago, and a man who had built a tornado shelter in his garage, and his family thought he was crazy. Then their lives were saved because of that. He had forethought. The top prepper was Chassid. You mean, are you talking about Adi? Are you referring to Joseph or Pharaoh? Because at that point, Joseph really wasn't Jewish. He kind of pushed his religion and himself away, and he kind of assimilated into Egyptian society. He wore Egyptian clothing. He married Asnat, an Egyptian girl. Oh, on the show Preppers. Now they call him Noah. Okay, I haven't seen that show. And, it's amazing. You can start browsing the internet and see, see the kind of things that people stockpile and collect. I mean, where Audie and I live, our big thing would be hurricanes. We don't have well, they do have tornadoes here, but not to the extent they have them elsewhere. So we would be prepping for hurricanes. But as we've seen from Irene and Katrina, hurricanes can do major damage that we just don't recover from quickly. And even if we didn't have a major disaster, where we lived, my family and I lived out west, we lived in a mountain basin, and we were at the bottom of the bowl in the basin. So if we wanted to leave our little area, no matter which direction we went, we had to go up and over the top of a major mountain range to get there. So if the roads were closed, there would be no way for the trucks to get in. And if you're thinking, I'll just run down to the grocery store and fill up, your average grocery store will be empty in 3 days. Completely empty. Wow. Okay, tornadoes there. Okay. So if you think the grocery store can save you, that's not going to be the case. Even in a snowstorm, they're going to be empty in 3 days. Not like the good mommy I used to be when my kids were little. I had a year's food stockpiled so that when bad times came, because we were in construction, I wouldn't have to worry about feeding the children. Of course, they might not like everything they got, but they got. Oh, you must have a pool, Lanny. Bad snowstorm. Yep, well, you can get a bad snowstorm, and then what are you going to do? Tourist on a Saturday can wipe out Walmart in 3 hours. Yes, it's probably true. So there's something really positive here that we can take from this story, is the fact that we need to be prepared. We don't know the future. Call your landlord, huh? Okay. And being prepared, taking care of ourselves, providing for ourselves. Even though we love our neighbors and we are nice to our neighbors, we can't depend on our neighbors to take care of us. Pharaoh was not depending on the neighboring nations. And we have out there, let's see, we had the Arabs, the nomads, we would have had the Assyrians, and to the north. The Romans weren't around yet, and the Greeks. So basically we had the Assyrian Empire to the north, and then we had Egypt to the south, and then miscellaneous little bands of people, nomadic groups that wandered in Palestine, like Abraham and his family, and Jacob and his family. Right, God warns us before bad things happen to help us. The Hittites, yeah, they were out there. The Amorites, the Moabites, these kind of peoples were out there in the land between the big empires, and they were just constantly being traveled back and forth. So we all know that the Assyrian Empire was the big bad guy of its day. So Pharaoh wasn't going to tell him about his food storage and dreams. He was going to keep that to himself, but he's not depending on the Assyrians to come down and to help him out. If they come down, they're going to run over and take over. So we have to learn to help ourselves, to be prepared. Yeah, those Moabites. Yep. And the Canaanites and the Hittites. All those ites. And the Amalekites. Let's not forget the Amalekites. And we had the Babylonians. We had the Sumerians. So were there, yeah, watch out for those Moabite girls. They can get you into a lot of trouble. We'll learn about that later down the road when we get to Pinchas. So what can we take away from this parsha? What are you each taking away from this parsha, this particular piece of it anyway, about frostbites? No, not there. Lanny, do you remember the top 40 Hittites? Yeah. Okay, so what lesson are you taking away from this particular story about Pharaoh, his dreams, the 7 fat cows, the 7 skinny cows, fat grain, skinny crane, and Pharaoh food storaging? What lesson do you take? Fat Freddy and the Pharaohs? You guys are on a roll this evening. You're like on a really roll, son. Adi, I love this parsha. So much to take away, and this was a way I never viewed it. Thank you. You're welcome. It was Ben Bag way back in the 2nd century, I think, who said, turn it, and turn it, and turn it again, because every time we turn it, we find something new in it. Well, Lanny, that's not being very nice to your neighbors. If you're hoarding it, you can gouge them in their time of need. Your name is not Home Depot or Lowe's. Remember, we are 36 times we are told in the Torah to remember our neighbors, to take care of the widow, to take care of the stranger and the orphan, and the widow, the orphans, and the stranger among you, or stay drunk enough to get through it. Yeah, I've learned I don't want to be Lanny's neighbor either, because he's not going to share. Well, he's going to share, but he's going to charge. I'm going to pay Lanny in whiskey. I have to start buying my cases, a bottle at a time on my budget. But, eventually, a bottle a week, I can get 52 bottles a year, a pint a week. And then I'll have to get some boxes to stockpile it in. Though since I live on an island, I think I'm going to go for plastic boxes. I don't want it all to get wet. Pharaoh didn't share. He didn't share with his neighbors, but he shared with Joseph's family. And speaking of Joseph's family, did you know that Joseph and Lanny likes whiskey? Well, there we are. We're on a roll. See? We could trade whiskey for anything. Can I trade your whiskey for a weapon? Are you up for that, Lanny? But it has to have ammunition with it. I don't want a weapon if there's no ammunition. I'll stick with my bows and arrows, thank you. Pharaoh didn't share because Joseph made him richer. He also made him very popular because he was able to care for his people. Okay, yeah, he'll do whiskey. Whiskey for a rifle or a gun of some sort and ammunition. So, okay, we get into, let's see. 7 years of abundance, where I'm at Genesis chapter 41, verse 53. The 7 years of abundance that Egypt enjoyed came to an end. The 7 years of famine set in just as Pharaoh had foretold. Famine in all the lands except Egypt, where there was bread. And when the land of Egypt, when all the land of Egypt felt the hunger, people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said, "Go to Joseph, and whatever he tells you, you will do." Really? Well, you could buy all the hard liquor. Why is that? If you go down and buy... Good question. Is your boat made of wood, Audie? I wouldn't try it if your boat is made of wood. And it was during the famine time that all the world came to Joseph in Egypt to procure rations because, let's see, the famine became, let me go back here, 55, the land of Egypt fell to Pharaoh and the famine, Pharaoh said, go to Joseph. 56, the famine became severe and Joseph opened everything that was in, rationed out the grain to the Egyptians, but the famine spread across the world. So all the world came to Joseph to procure rations because the famine had been severe through the world. Now, who else? That's exactly it. Look at what Jacob had when he left Laban. Yep. That is so weird. Well, Shlomo, you just have to go and just buy it every week till you stockpile it. And when Jacob, now we get to the family, because now Jacob's family is hungry, and Jacob has turned his eyes to Egypt. And he says, Egypt has food. There are rations to be had. Go down and get us some. So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to get grain in Egypt. The only brother that did not go was, which brother didn't go? Anybody know? 10 of the brothers went. Joseph was already there. Anybody know which brother didn't go? Right, because the famine spread across the world. From one breadbasket to another, and it doesn't tell us what caused the famine. It was probably weather-related. That's the one. Brother Benjamin stayed home. And so the sons of Israel came to get him, and they came to Joseph. Did they recognize their brother? No. Yeah, they used up their stockpiles. In a year, I'd be looking. So included in my stockpile are seeds, so I can continue to plant. And since I live on an island, I can fish. We got stockpiles of fishing nets and fishing poles. So we're good there. And Joseph recognized his brothers, but he acted like he didn't. And he spoke harshly to them and said, where'd you come from? And they said, from the land of Chanah, the Canaanites. And we came for food. They didn't recognize Joseph. And recalling the dreams that he had dreamed about them, all the way back to his childhood, he said, no, you're spies. You've come to see the land in its nakedness. And they, no, we've only come for food. We are all sons of the same men. We are honest men. What do you think Joseph is thinking? Oh, yeah, you're honest men, all right? And he said, no, that's not true. Yes. Well, we're not told that. The words in the text are not Egyptian. The words are Hebrew. But logic dictates that he would have spoken Egyptian to them because that was the language in Egypt. They had like a Canaanite dialect, and he probably spoke Egyptian to them, but we're not sure. And it says, we were 12 brothers, but the youngest is with our father, and one is no more. And Joseph remembers, you are spies. You will be put to the test unless your youngest brother comes here. By Pharaoh, not by God. By Pharaoh, you shall not depart from this place. One of you go get your brother. The rest of you I'm locking up. So your words can be put to the test whether there is truth in you. Else, by Pharaoh, not by God, by Pharaoh, you are nothing but spies. And he, okay, well, we'll see if we can find that verse. And he confined them in the guardhouse for 3 days. So, of course, they went down and they went to get him. On the third day, Joseph said, "Do this and you will live, because I'm a God-fearing man. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be held, and the rest of you go and take the rations home for your starving households. But you must bring me your youngest brother, that your words may be verified and that you will not die." And they said, and they agreed, and they said to one another they were being punished on account of their brother, because they looked on his anguish and paid no heed when he pleaded with us, which is why. And Reuben jumps right in and goes, "Did I not tell you do no wrong to that boy? But you paid no heed, and now has come the reckoning for his blood." And they didn't know that Joseph understood. Here we go, Shlomo, because there was an interpreter between him and them. So it's not only Joseph that remembers what happened, every one of his brothers remembers. And they sound like they are in a place of guilt, serious guilt. And there's no way they can go to their father and say, "Oops, oh, by the way, this is not like the situation where my youngest son got into trouble by his auntie when he was like 4 years old, because he was blamed for writing on her brand new wallpaper in the bathroom with her brand new stick of red lipstick. And 12 years later, his sister, sitting in the couch, goes, 'Oh, by the way, that was me who wrote on the bathroom wall with Aunt Lisa's lipstick.'" And he exploded. He had never forgotten that. So some memories stay in for years. But she didn't feel no guilt for writing on the wall and blaming it on him. That was his problem. But these brothers feel guilty, and it stays with them. Have you had situations in your lives when you have dealt with siblings where you have been wronged? Do you remember having been wronged? Is that something that you carry with you? And if you carry it, how do you live with that? How have you come to grips with that difficulty and challenge in your life of siblings who have wronged you? Anyone have something to say? My youngest son came to grips with his sister in the lipstick incident on the bathroom wall by climbing over the couch and punching her, even though it had been 12 years earlier that she had done that. Okay, Adi says, "Yes, I follow Torah and have symbolically killed them." Mom thought, let's see, Shlomo says, "I remember Mom thought I did something when I didn't. Then she realized I didn't do it and apologized." That sounds like it was kind of like in the moment, Shlomo, or within a few days. How long did it take her to realize that you didn't do it? Okay. Ah, yours was a few minutes. Okay. With my kids, it was 12 years about the day. Oh, yeah, Addie, you must have been the oldest. You took the heat for everything the youngers did. Mm-hmm. It was my youngest who took the heat for everything the older ones did. Alex says, truly apologized to my little brother, was forgiven. We tried to be friends, but went back to nothing to do with the other. Works better for us. That's kind of like what we saw happen with Jacob and his twin Esau. They apologized to each other. They were able to forgive. They were okay as friends, but they went their separate ways and had nothing to do with the other, but they were at peace with themselves, and it works better. Oldest, yes. Only one with a mohawk. Never went well. My youngest was the only one with the mohawk. Everybody thought he was cute. Anything from Sarah? Does Sarah have anything she wants to share? Or Lanny? So what we have going on here is is maybe, okay, Sarah, that's fine. I want to make sure before we continue on that you're not thinking about something that you want to add in. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to say what they'd like to say. Hannibal Lecter. I have no idea who Hannibal Lecter is. Who is that, Lanny? The only Hannibal I know was on elephants when he invaded Europe. Unless that's the Hannibal you mean. Silence of the Lambs. Okay, I missed that. I didn't see that or read that. Okay. Cannibals. Eat your siblings? Ooh. No, I think I could skip that one. So, well, let's go with the idea of teshuvah. Because we know that by the end of this reading, Joseph forgives his brothers. And it's like one big happy family reunion. And it's the first usage of the word shalom in the phrase lishalom. Come forth towards peace. And we're only got a few minutes left here, so if you will skip over to that last one, and we'll skip all the angst of the visits and the guilt of the brothers, because we know that's already there. And the very last word of this, the very last phrase of the last couple, the last half sentences, who yihi eli, he will be to me, aved, a servant, ve'atem, elu, and you, to you, lishalom. El avicham. Only he who's in possession. They're talking about the possession of the goblet, and only the one who has the goblet, vayihi lihi aved, he will be to me for a slave. V'atem alu, the rest of you will basically go lishalom, forth in peace. Go forth in peace. El avichem. I got the right vowel there? Avicham. Go forth in peace to your father. So he's letting him off the hook and saying he's good with it. Lanny says it's easy to forgive when you're the one who comes out on top. What do the rest of you think? You think that's true? Are you okay if we go 5 more minutes and just finish up here? So we don't have too abrupt an ending? You think it's easy to forgive when you're the one who comes out on top? What are your thoughts? Avichem. Okay, thank you, Alex. I have small writing, and until I get my new glasses, it's going to continue to stay small because I'm kind of on the blind side with these. Jacob will be devastated, yeah, when he finds out, because there is no way 5 more minutes. We're going to live like crazy, people. Maybe we should go 8 more minutes. We are moving into Hanukkah. So, anyway, Jacob will be devastated. There's no way now that his brothers can't not tell his brothers. You know, the brothers going to have to come clean to dad. Don't view things in on top terms, okay? So, yeah. Yeah, it is. Chanukah. Yeah, that's my name tonight. Torah Talk with Chanukah. We should have put that on the blurb, sending it out. Torah Talk with Chanukah. Well, actually, we can do that next week, because next Monday will be during Hanukkah. So make a note, Adi. We want to see written down that it will be Torah Talk with Chanukah. And then, Sarah, not only is he losing both Joseph and Ben, he's going to get him back. Yeah, Jacob didn't punish the brothers, or at least we're not told that he punished the brothers. Okay, we're going to remind me. Next week it's Torah Talk with Chanah-Ka. Great, love it. And on my plate now. Thank you. So we'll, you know, we don't always come up on top. And easy to forgive when you're on top. Okay, now, is Jacob, how easy is he going to be finding it? No, it doesn't end well, because one of them are there, but now Jacob is going to be told the truth. How easy is it going to be for him to forgive 10 of his sons? Because 10 of them were in cahoots against the other one. And while the baby was at home, because he wasn't old enough to go out there. He doesn't disown his sons. He doesn't appear, we don't see anything that talks about punishing them. But this story will be continued next week. We can tune in for another edition of Torah Talk with Chanah, with Hanukkah next week, and see what happens. This is going to be a difficult place. These brothers are going to be doing teshuvah on a major scale. Yeah, just like he deceived his father. Now he was deceived. Same thing for me, Shlomo. Though, let me tell you, it has been tempting. Same time, same place, same back channel. That's exactly it. So before we wrap it up, anybody? Lanny says if he sold his sibs, the parents would want their cut. Okay, do we have any more comments? Any more thoughts? Like, share, donate. What you can do for punktorah, you do matter. Remember to thank all those who contributed tonight. Yes, thank you for our wonderful donors. You've helped keep us on the air live. Yeah, especially lied. Especially to find out that his sons lied and continued to lie about it. For how many years? We'll have to check. Anybody know offhand how many years that Joseph was in slavery and back? Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here with everybody. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Okay. Well, then a good 23 years, yeah. That's a long time to keep that kind of a secret. A big secret. Temp is 28. I need to move to heat. It's 76 down here. I'm thinking about maybe we should put on the air conditioning. So, go hit the little, what is that little box? The push button up there that says donate, and drop your little half shekels in there. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Okay, so we don't have any more comments. Go check out foodstorageMadeEasy.net/ and see the cool things they recommend. They got all kinds of fun stuff and charts and figuring out what to save and how to prep your food storage and where you can get good stuff in storage and books and even recipes on how to use your food storage. I'm not sure if you need recipes, but there they are. So Lila told everyone I'm going to stop this recording, and same time, same channel, same everything next week. Lila told.